Language detection in Zendesk. What? Was? Wer bist du? ¿Quién eres? Was sagst du? What are you saying? ¿Qué dices? ¿Qué dich? Alright, and that's about enough. That's all the languages I speak. So the idea behind it is how does Zendesk detect languages for users. In this video, we're going to break it down. We're going to talk about each of the channels and how Zendesk does that for you. And there's a bonus at the end where we talk about a secret topic. My name is Dominic, customer experience expert and enthusiast. I've been a Zendesk consultant. This is my 11th year, so let's go. First on the list is when an agent creates a user. By default, the language of this user is going to be the language set in your Zendesk. So in Admin Center, in localization, if you go there, you'll see that you have a language set up. So whenever an agent creates this user, that's the language that's going to be automatically assigned to them. As a small parenthesis, Zendesk supports a number of different languages. I think there's 27. I hope I'm not wrong, but there's enough languages for you to be covered in there. And if it's not, then of course you can find some alternatives. Now moving on to auto detection of languages in the email channel. How does Zendesk recognize the language of a user in the email channel when a ticket is created via an email? Well, if this user doesn't exist in Zendesk beforehand, then Zendesk will take the contents of that email, read through it and put like a magnifying glass and see what language that is and assign it to the user profile. Now, if the user comes back and writes in a different language, that's not going to change anything because Zendesk has already made up its mind on what language this user came with. The only thing you can do is to go to their profile and change that if you're an agent. How does Zendesk recognize the language of somebody using the Help Center? So as you know, in the Help Center, or Guide as it's called in the newer version, users can browse through knowledge bases and they can also submit requests through some forms. On the Guide level, right on the homepage, you have an option to choose the language that you want if it's available. So depending on what language you choose in there, whatever you fill out in the form doesn't matter. Zendesk will recognize that your language is going to be that one that you chose in the Help Center. So it's going to assign it to your profile when you create a ticket. Language recognition for the web widget in Zendesk. Now this is a fun one because Zendesk recognizes the language of this user's browser. So the language is passed through the HTTP protocol and Zendesk in the widget recognizes this language and automatically assigns it to the user profile. Now you can override this condition by applying a bit of custom code to the widget, and this way you can assign the language yourself. But for most situations, you best leave it as it is. Language detection in the SDK, so Software Developer Kit. So if you're using the latest version of the Zendesk SDK, the language of a new user is detected by the locale of this user. What does that mean? So the locale means whatever they download the app from. So the SDK is a sample of code, is some code that you introduce in your app, and users, if they want support, they can access it directly from your app and it creates a ticket in Zendesk. The locale is going to be whatever, language you set for these users in that app that you built, right? If it's in English, they're going to have English. If it's in Spanish, they're going to be having Spanish. If it's German, it's going to be having, yes, German. Now, if you don't support a locale in your app or in your service, then the language that is going to be assigned is going to be the default one you have set up in Zendesk in your localization page. Language detection for API tickets. Now, in this case, it's going to be the default language in the Zendesk localization page of your Zendesk. If you want to set up a specific language for your users, new users, you can do that through the API directly. So you can create this user, create a ticket, and also assign the language of this user, whatever you want it to be. Social media language detection for Zendesk. In Zendesk, language recognition for social media tickets is not available. It doesn't work. So when a ticket is created by somebody from Facebook Messenger or Instagram or whatever social media channel, it's going to be, again, the basic or the default language that is set up in Zendesk in the localization page in Zendesk. Language detection in messaging tickets in Zendesk. The language is detected by the web browser of the user, but only if the browser language is enabled in support. Whatever variation of languages that the user might have that do not coincide with what you already have means that it's going to be assigned, surprise, surprise, the default language of Zendesk. So what should you do if a user's language is set up incorrectly? Well, you go to their profile and you change that language. It's very easy and it's very convenient, but I know it can be very frustrating, especially if you want this to be done very well from the beginning. But there are many variations, and it's not expected to necessarily work Swiss precision every time. Reason for this is because there's many languages, there's many browsers, and people use their browsers in many languages. For example, I am Romanian, I use all my stuff in English. When I'm traveling, I'll be in Norway, and I'll be a Romanian with my browser in English. So as you can see, it starts getting complicated very schnell, very fast. Okay, so I did mention a surprise topic, which is going to be the language detection from advanced AI. You might know that Zendesk launched this advanced AI add-on, which is, advanced intelligence. So amongst the features that it provides with sentiment analysis, generative AI, it also has language detection. So this is done via OpenAI. That's what the advanced bot entails, an integration with OpenAI. So that detects the language for you and it assigns it to the user. It's still a bit vague, to me at least, on how this is done exactly. If it overrides all the settings in Zendesk and it just takes over and assigns the user language, or it just takes it on a case-by-case basis and the language is set by the Zendesk features that I mentioned before and the logic that I mentioned before, and the ticket remains in whatever the language model detected. I've been assigned, for example, English, but I'm writing in German because I am German, but the system automatically assigned me English because, I don't know, it created my user via the API or whatever. So that's a little bit unclear for me. I'm still opening to learning about this because I'm not really sure, and the documentation is also not very concise from Zendesk. If you guys know, please let me know in the comments and I'll be really grateful. And by the way, if you're there doing that, can you smash the like button? I'd be really grateful because this will bring the content to more people. And by the way, there is a community, so you can join a private community. There's a join button, which is somewhere below the video, which if you want to join a private community. Zendesk never sponsored any of these videos, so running this YouTube channel is not the easiest thing in the world. So, there's many expenses, and yeah, again, it'd be really nice. Thanks so much. Bye.